So what was your family life like when you were younger?
It was awesome. Raised very middle class. My mom was a department store buyer, and my dad was a director of maintenance for Norfolk General Hospital. So my family, my older sister, older brother, younger brother, we all went to Catholic school, K through 12, Christ the King predominantly. And no, it was a great life. We were raised with a lot of love. My dad actually served in Korea. He was in Texas at the time and realized his only way out of South Texas was to join the military. So he joined the Navy out of Texas and did 20 years and retired in Norfolk. And that's why I was born there, or Portsmouth General across the way. So no, I had a great childhood. Great childhood. I actually tell my friends about my childhood and they go, wow, that was awesome.
So what were you doing before you served in the military?
I was a college student. My dad, I had 4 years. I had a year left. My dad had made a deal with me. I'll pay for 4 years and then you're done. I wasn't done. So he said, figure it out. So I joined the Marine Corps Reserve to help pay for school with the GI Bill. And the reason I went in the reserves is that I looked at the local unit that was there, the amphibious assault unit, and they hadn't been called to war since Korea. So I figured, I'll do my 6 years, I get my GI Bill, I'll finish school, it'll all work out. So that was kind of the reason why, I've always had a special like for the Marine Corps. I just thought it was the best, so I'll go do that.
Okay. So you said that your dad had served in the Navy. Did that influence you at all in joining?
Actually, my dad didn't think it was such a great decision. I can remember we were driving down one of the roads, and escapes me now, and I told him what I was thinking. And my dad, before it was officially formed, was, I won't say, well, probably, there's a lot he never talked about, a founding member of the original SEAL team. So what they would do is they would go in Korea, come aboard and get on land in rafts, go in a mile, 2 miles, set up in the mountains. So if you look at Camelback Mountain, get all the way to the top of the mountain, take binoculars, and then call in artillery, if you would, where Carolyn is. So you can see it. Now you've got to call in artillery fire, call in the fire, then come down the mountain, and get out. But he shared something with me, and it's always stayed with me. He said, Chris, let me tell you something. You want to join the reserves, that's great. But I'm telling you, if you go to war, it won't be the same. And he said, take it from a guy, when you kill people and you're going through their stuff and you see pictures of their wives and kids, you realize this is real. It's a fight. Someone's going to lose. Someone's not going to see their family. I just refuse to lose. And I went, yeah. Like we all do. Yeah, Dad, yeah. And it wasn't until, Eric, can you give me some water? And it wasn't until he really passed away that I got that. So, yeah, we've always had respect for the military. And that was really it, just because of how we served.
Okay. So what was it like when you left for boot camp?
I was always, they make it a point to just say, hey, stay in shape, get in shape. And I was usually in pretty good shape because, A, I was young and I played a lot of soccer. But it was just one of those things, you really can't be prepared for it. I remember flying down to South Carolina because boot camp is at Parris Island. And thank you. And I was flying down to boot camp, and I was talking to this girl on a plane, and we were talking, and I get off the plane, and we get through the airport, and there's a Marine Corps sergeant, and he has a file with your picture on it. So I hear, come here. And I look up, I'm like, are you talking to me? I'm talking to you. Get over here. That was it. So, I mean, from the airport, then you get on a bus, then you go to Parris Island, and the senior drill instructor comes on board the bus and says, "Welcome to the Marine Corps. When you get off my bus, there will be yellow footprints. You are to stand on those footprints and wait for orders." And then he just starts screaming, "Get off my bus, get off my..." I mean, it's like 20 guys trying to get through a bus door. It was the most insane thing. So then you get out there and they shave your head and you get fitted for uniforms. You're up for about 30 hours straight when you get there. And then you're finally allowed to go to sleep. So I never experienced anything like that in my life. Because again, I was raised in a very loving household. No one really raised their voice at each other. There was just that expectation, and that was it. So yeah, it was a little mind-blowing to me.
What were the early days of boot camp like?
Just chaos. Make your rack, and then the drill instructor comes over, turns it over. You have your gear in the locker. He throws it out of the locker. I lost about 25 pounds in boot camp. I was 6'2", I was 6'2", 198 or 200 when I went in. I came out at 175. I never ran that much in my life. I mean, that's all you do is run and run and run, train, run. And it's just a life changer. I mean, for 12 weeks, you're going usually from a place where no one's really ever got in your face before on a daily basis to instant obedience to orders. This is why you do it. You don't question things. You just perform. So, yeah, it's definitely a mind-changing event. But the reason that's done is so that if you were to ever go to war and have a situation where you're told to do it, you don't question it. You just do it. You just have to have the faith in your officers that they know the game plan here.
Did you do any special training?
Well, in the Marine Corps, what happens is you go to boot camp and then you pick your specialty. Now, what was unique in my situation is that I left boot camp, and then as a reservist, you go back to school or back to college. So I went back to college at Old Dominion. And then the following summer, you go to your specialty school, which started out as field artillery. So I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for artillery school, which I'm really glad I did looking back because it really gave me an appreciation for different things. So I did field artillery school in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Then I came back to Old Dominion again and decided I was living in Norfolk going to school. The artillery unit was in Richmond and knew about this Amtrak, and they had an opening where I could transfer. So I just transferred from artillery to Amtraks down in Norfolk. So I never went to Amtrak school. Everything about Amtraks I learned during my weekends, because with the reserves you do 1 week in a month and 2 weeks during the summer. So the Marine Corps manual is written on an 8th grade level for a reason. So you can get up pretty quickly how it works, how the machine guns are fired, how the tracks are put together, what to do if they break, everything. So yeah, it was a pretty easy transition. As far as the schooling though, that's where it ended.
What was the social life like on the bases?
I was only in the reserve, so I only did it 1 week in a month. I mean, there really wasn't a base. If we went to drill, we went out directly to the field. So if you're in Norfolk, you would literally go out of Norfolk Naval in your Amtrak, go out to the ships, mount up on the ships, and then just practice coming off the ships, invasion tactics, different formations. If we were going to do land training, we would take the tracks to Fort Story, which was an Army base in Virginia Beach, or we would get on a bus and go down to Camp Lejeune, which is the home of the 2nd Marine Division, and train there. I'm going to say maybe no more than twice in 6 years did we ever do anything opposite of that. It was either Norfolk or Camp Lejeune, and twice we went to New Jersey for a bigger command exercise.
What was the food like on the bases?
It was just normal food, nothing great.
Okay, what was the social life like on the bases?
Well, they're really, again, I don't know, because as a reservist, that just doesn't happen. You go straight to the field. You're not going into town with your buddies. You leave on a Friday, they put you in the middle of nowhere, you train all week and get back on a bus or come home. If we were staying on base that drill weekend, you show up at 4 a.m., you're dismissed at 6 p.m., you go home to your dorm room or your house, your apartment, wherever you're living, wake up Sunday or Saturday, go back in and do it again.
Okay, what was the most difficult part of boot camp?
Oh, just the physical training. That was it. I was very fortunate in that I was an athlete in high school, and but it's just the athletic side of it. And remember, when you're in boot camp, you have 3 meals a day. That's it. There is no snacking. You don't, and those meals are already to a point. You're gonna have this much starch, this much vitamin, this much meat. There's a reason why people are in the best shape of their life when they live there, or graduate. I remember on graduation day, a mother ran right by her son because she didn't recognize him. It's just, well, this is the same guy who lost 65 pounds in 3 months. So, you're not anything like your mom would remember. I remember I got off the plane in Richmond after boot camp. I literally got off the plane. My mom looked at me and said, "You look like a Holocaust survivor." It's just, all you do is run and run and run. It's like Tom Hanks for Forrest Gump. He said he never knew he could be that thin. Well, I never knew I could be that thin and survive. So I packed it on since then, but that's life. That's 25 years later.
Okay. When did you find out you're going to be deployed?
That's a great question. I found out I was going to be deployed kind of at a drill. The major, our commanding officer, Major Saputo, made an announcement. And what he said was, enjoy Thanksgiving with your family. You're probably not going to be around for Christmas. Now, I was married in June of 90. In August of 90, Saddam Hussein invaded. And there were rumors, might get called, might not get called, don't know. Live life as normal, but be ready. So we were drilling pretty hard, and he made that announcement in November. I remember I came home and I told my wife what the major said, and she said, well, all we can do is pray, and whatever happens, happens. So I was at home when I got the call from captain, and he just said, it's on, report in 72 hours, and that was it. So I reported. We drove down to Camp Lejeune. We were there for 10 days training, and then we were deployed to Saudi Arabia. And then from there, they put us on buses to a base in the middle of the desert, and then from the base we picked up our Amtraks and just kept pushing forward.
What was your greatest fear of being deployed?
Dying. Yeah. I was newly married, and I knew if the reserves were being called, this could get pretty bad. So my wife and I never spoke about that. I didn't think that was fair to her. But obviously, you're going to be in combat. You're going to be at the front of or as they say, the tip of the spear. So, yeah, I think anyone that says they never really thought about it's lying. I mean, any reasonable person would go, this probably doesn't end well. You hope, of course, that it ends well, but you have to be prepared for that.
Did you witness any action while deployed?
Yeah, what we did is there were 18 fully loaded Marines in our track, and those Marines were engineers. So what we did is with our Amtrak, we pulled 1-ton TNT rockets behind us. So what that means is on invasion day, we all had lanes, and we pulled into our lane. We would stop while taking fire, launch the rockets over the Amtrak into the minefield that was in front of us, the rocket would explode, set off the mines, pull up, and do it again. Well, Amtracs are made out of aluminum. So a 50 cal bullet would rip through that like scissors through paper. It wouldn't do anything. On top of that problem, if the rocket landed and didn't go off, the engineers in the back of the Amtrak had to get out of the Amtrak, go around, rig the rocket to explode. So then they had 15 seconds to get back in the Amtrak and wait for the rocket to explode. If we pulled up in the lane, the rocket exploded, but there was a piece of Iraqi army field artillery, then they had to get out, load the cannon or the field artillery piece with explosives so they couldn't use it again. So it was a very slow day. We couldn't just go because we were literally in miles of minefields. So when we pulled up, you had to stop, launch a rocket, take enemy fire, wait for the rocket to explode, pull up, and do it again and again and again.
Can you describe your emotions while you were in combat?
You know, it was funny. We had a service, and we were told after the service. I remember the priest. We were by our tracks taking communion, and the commanding officer said, "Listen, here's reality. 90% of you won't be alive tomorrow. You're going into the minefield. If their rocket fire doesn't kill you, their machine guns will. If their machine guns don't kill you, the mine exploding itself will kill you. But this is what you signed up for, so good luck. Hopefully, at the end of the day, we'll see you." That was it. So we got into our tracks and did the job, but I did not expect to be alive 24 hours later. I just didn't. I mean, when the commanding officer says 90% of you aren't going to be around tomorrow, so whatever you got to write or say, go do it. If you want to smoke your last cigar, yeah, you're not. It's not like you can leave. There are no options. So, good luck. That was it.
Okay. Did you lose any friends?
No. I didn't lose any friends. I didn't have anyone get wounded. I was very, very fortunate. We had a couple of guys freak out, but you know they were freaking out from not so much moving through the minefields, but when we came to a stop, they just had a breakdown. They just mentally checked out for a while. It was just the stress. I can remember driving through the tracks, and I didn't think about anything except moving forward. I mean, that was my job. No matter what, you move forward. And that was it. I didn't think about living, dying, nothing. I just thought about drive forward, drive forward, drive forward. So, yeah, I didn't see anyone get shot. The odd part was that the only person I saw get killed was a gentleman who actually had surrendered, and he stepped on a landmine, and his body just exploded. His skull literally split in half, and his head popped off about 40 feet in the air. But that was it. There wasn't massive casualties. What I was surprised with, the way it was spoken about with our commanding officer, was that it would be a bloodbath, and that was not the case at all. What happened is that they would fire, or later I found out, they would fire for maybe 10 minutes and then leave their post and retreat. They really weren't committed to the cause as much as we were. So what was odd is, I'm going to say maybe after the invasion, we realized that basically they had given up. I mean, we just weren't ready for all of them to retreat and then surrender at the same time. So we just had to keep moving them to the back and moving them to the back. And pretty soon we just ran out of people that would surrender. I mean, there was just no one. It was like a ghost town. So that's always stuck with me. Like, that was really weird to see. Oh, you know, Saddam Hussein's greatest army and just nothing.
Oh, what type of bonds did you form?
Oh, lifelong bonds. There's that track I showed you was built by a buddy of mine, Walter Zersky. And Walter is probably my dearest, well, not even probably, is my dearest friend from the Marine Corps. And yeah, we talk all the time. And it was funny. We were walking around, smoking a cigar a few days before we got deployed. And just like, who knows, 20, 30 years from now, maybe we'll be talking about this. And funny part is, we still do. And last I saw Walter, he was in Las Vegas for a convention meeting. And I was there on business, and we got to sit down and have lunch. And it's just funny, you're sitting there having lunch in Vegas, and we were at the Paris Hotel, which has a restaurant on the Strip. And it was just one of those, you just never know, I mean, this is better. This is okay. So, yeah, it's just, I think the military does a great job of creating endearing friendships, because literally your life depends on the next person knowing their job and sticking with their job no matter what. I think in society today, that's what we're surely lacking, is genuine care for each other. And it's showing up. And I think for that reason, society and the economy are not going to operate at their maximum capacity, because people believe that they don't need each other. And that's not right.
How did you communicate with people back home?
Not well. When I got back, I went to, and you have to remember, I'm literally in the desert with no one around, except for my Marine unit. There is no measurement. There is no, you can't say this, do that. I mean, you're in the middle of nowhere. And I got home on Friday. I got home on Good Friday in 1991. And my wife picked me up at Camp Lejeune. We drove home. And Sunday, that was Good Friday. And Saturday, she said, we need to go to the grocery store. And I had, obviously I hadn't been to a grocery store in months, whatever. So I go to the grocery store, and she says, go get the bread. So I go to get the bread, and I just go, where's this effing bread? And I started yelling it. And she looks at me and says, what's wrong with you? I can't find this bread. She says, we're in public. And that was it. I went, oh yeah. Yeah, okay, I got it. But I hadn't been in public so long, I forgot basic manners. Because when you go there, you're in a position that you're going to fight to the death. And you can't turn that off sometimes. You had this expectation on a Wednesday, you're going to do this no matter what. Now you're home on a Saturday in a grocery store. So you see these men and women come home on the news with post-traumatic stress syndrome, PTSD. And I get that. I mean, I was very blessed that I was able to, quote, snap out of it. But then you have men and women on deployments for a year and a half at the front lines, and IEDs and things I never had to deal with. I think that, again, I only witnessed one unfortunate accident, but these guys and gals today are witnessing things and seeing their friends getting their legs blown off, face blown off, arm, and these people are still alive. And it does impact you. It does impact you, and sometimes you can't turn that off. Not when you've seen it on display for so long. So, I was very, very fortunate, but, I had a business at the time called Waterfront Creations that Joan, my wife, ran for me while I was gone, and we did bulkheads and piers and docks, riprap. And when I left, she had 6 months of work. So I had a really good crew working for me. So she was running the business. So when I got home Friday, Saturday that happened in the grocery store, I snapped out of it. Monday, it was back to work. I mean, that's what I did. I just went back to work. So I didn't have, I guess, what's happening to a lot of vets today. And that really is the blessing, because I only had that one event in a Safeway. And that was it. So I was really fortunate.
How did you communicate with people back home while you were deployed?
I wrote a lot of people. My dad, I remembered I called my dad, my parents, and my dad said, "You're on the cover of Time magazine. I know that's you." And what it was a Marine with a fire retardant suit, which you have to have either you're in aviation or you're in tracks, because they go up in flames pretty quickly. And he had on his flak jacket, and he was carrying an American flag. And he said, "You're on the cover of Time." And he was walking away from the camera, so you could only see his back. He said, "I know that head anywhere. I can't believe they got pictures of your scar." And I said, "Dad, there's no press around." He said, "I'm telling you." Well, it was funny. When I got home, I saw the picture. It looked a lot like me, and I just said, "I don't think that was me, Dad." But, he wanted to believe it was me, that I was okay. And I get that as a parent now, that you love your children so much. You just absolutely want to believe in the very, very best. They're safe. They're okay. They're making good decisions. They're that person you expect them to be. So I learned a lot about being a father, even though I didn't have children at the time. I got to see what he sees. My wife, I told her that we were just delivering Gatorade in the Amtrak's to the people up front. I never told her the truth. I mean, you don't tell your wife, "Hey, we're delivering explosives. Oh, by the way, 90% chance I'm not going to come home. There's probably going to be, if I had to guess, a massive fire, and I'll get to burn to death. And by the way, hope to come home with all my limbs." Nope, never told her that. Just, we're delivering Gatorade. Everything's going great. Everyone's getting along really well. That was it. And I love you. So when I called her, when it was over, she just started crying, because she said, "I knew when I watched the news and they were showing what the units they were using for the invasion, I knew you were in the middle of that." Yeah, I was. Because it wasn't fair to her. There's nothing she could have done about it. What is. When we got married, it wasn't, "I'll probably go to war one day." That's not what she, quote, signed up for. Again, this unit hadn't been deployed since 52. So, you got a pretty good chance you're not going to get deployed. So, when it was over and she realized everything, she realized why I had to tell her what I told her. But we had, I was writing my brother, I was writing my sister, anyone, because that's just how you deal with it. That's how you don't have to deal, "Hey, I've got to clean the barrel of the gun one more time. I have to, get ready. What if they come at this formation?" So, yeah, that's the only thing you have. There wasn't what I believe today is a lot of email. There was no email. You just wrote letters. That's what it was. You just went, you wrote letters. Hopefully they got them. Sometimes I'd go 4 or 5 days without a letter, and then on the 6th day I might get 9. It's just the way it went. But everyone at home was really, really supportive. And I remember when we came back, we flew from Saudi Arabia to Ireland into Maine. And what they were doing is they were taking all the vets through Maine, because there was a big celebration when you landed and people handing out American flags and clapping. It was really, really cool. And then from there you went to wherever you were stationed, which in my case again was Camp Lejeune. So yeah, but that's how I dealt. I don't want to say dealt, that's not polite. That's how I or what I told people, I was doing. And they were great. It was a good experience. And I think the public at large, when we came back, they had parade down the main Pennsylvania Avenue, and I could have participated in that. And I think that's the only thing I regret from all of it is I didn't participate in the big parade. But I had a business to run, so that's I just went back to work. But I know my work ethic today came from my experience in the Marine Corps, without a doubt. You can't go through that and it doesn't drive you to be better. It's impossible.
You said that there was like a big kind of celebration when you got back.
Mm-hmm.
Was your family there waiting for you?
Actually, no, because in my case, I got back to Lejeune, Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. I lived probably 3 hours from base in Chesapeake, Virginia. And we didn't know if we were going to be released immediately or stay on base for a week and debrief, or how it was going to go down. So I couldn't tell them, hey, we're going to come in, it'll be a big celebration, because we just didn't know. What happened, funny enough, is we landed, I took a physical, they drew blood, and they said, okay, you're good to go. And I remember saying, well, what's that mean? Well, call someone to come get you, you're done. Okay, so found a payphone, called my wife and said, I'm free to leave, I got my orders. She said, I'll be there in 3 hours. And I said, I'll meet you at gate 6. Okay. And I had my pack and my duffel bag, and I was walking towards the gate, and there she was. So, and then from there, obviously I got home, and then we were home for a week, and then we drove up to see my folks, and my sister was there and my brothers, and yeah, it was nice.
Was that like celebration when you got back? Was that like what you had imagined returning would be like?
Yeah, I think I was more, yeah, that's a great question. What was the expectation? I felt really more lucky to be alive than anything. Not handicapped, not an amputee, got all my parts, everything's good. Just seeing my wife was enough, really. And then just seeing my folks. I didn't need a big parade and, 1,000 handshakes. I just wanted to see my wife and my folks and my family. And like I said, Wednesday, I'm in the desert. Friday or Thursday, I'm on a flight home. Friday, I see my wife. Monday, I'm back to work. I just, not enough time to even have an ego involved, because I just wanted to go back to work. And I think looking back, that was just my way of not dealing with what happened, because look, I'm home. I've got to go to work. That's just the way it is. And that was it. So, there a celebration? Yes. Could I have participated? Yes, but I didn't need it. I was just more happy to see my wife and folks.
Okay. How has your time in the service affected how you live your life today?
I think, how does it not affect my life? I think if you're in the service, and all I can do is speak about the Marine Corps, I can't speak about the other branches, but I think if you're in that band of brotherhood, you have an expectation. You have an expectation of physically, where you want to be. You don't want to look like a sloth. You want to take care of yourself. You have an expectation of being the best, of being very, very good at your job. I've been very fortunate. I went into the insurance business in 1992, and by the grace of God, I'm still in the business today, 22 years later. So it's just always that expectation of learning something new. How does it work? How can I make it better, etc. And it carries over into everything. You always have a pressed out shirt. The one thing that concerns me, and I noticed when I got here, is almost a lack of work ethic in the Valley. And what I mean by that is I am astounded even today by the laid back mentality of adults. I don't get that. My daughter's swim coach said Phoenix is where LA meets Vegas attitude wise. And I see it in kids coming out of school today with no work ethic, no sense of responsibility. People will come to me, how do I do what you do? How can I be successful? How about show up to work on time and your clothes are pressed out? I mean, that's all I got to do. That would be a good start. That would be a good start. And then, they start out 10 minutes late for work, missing assignment, and it all carries over. That's what people don't get. What you're doing by not showing up to work on time, by not doing the assignments, is you're saying basically, I don't want to be promotable. I don't want to take this to the next level. I'm just filling a void until I find something new. So you better have a commitment to excellence. And it has to carry over, because it will carry over to your children. Your children will have expectations. And they know that, okay, the bar is set. This is the expectation. I have to achieve that. So that's where it's carried over into my life.
So this goes to kind of the war in general.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with President Bush's decision to enter into this conflict?
Yeah, because I don't question orders.
Who was the most memorable person that you met?
Oh my God. Top Bilger.
From boot camp all the way through.
Top Bilger. Top Bilger was, if you think about a poster child for a top sergeant in the Marine Corps, this was it. He was in Vietnam, Beirut when it went down. I didn't know you could consume 2 packs a day of cigarettes. I was just crusty, cranky. I remember one time we were sitting there, and I was sitting next to him in his track. He asked me something, and I was explaining it to him, and this kid came over to him. Now, this is a guy 30 years in the Marine Corps, and this kid comes over to him, fresh out of boot camp, and says, "Top, I asked my mom to send you a gift. What the hell do I want with you? What is this?" And he says, "It's apple tobacco." And he says, "If I wanted an apple, I'd eat an apple. I want tobacco to hurt my lungs. Anything else you have to say to me, stupid?" I just thought, wow, that's nice. And then another time, Private Gomez was putting ammunition on top of the track, and you never did that, because if a rocket landed on it, it would just be a bigger explosion. So you always kept ammo inside the track. And Gomez just thought this was the greatest idea. So he said, "Top, I want you to take a look at this." And he walked over there. He said, "What is wrong with you?" He said, "What? It looks really nice. I've organized the ammo." And he said, "No, you organize your death. You're an idiot. Get it out of there." So just mean as the day was long. And I remember I asked him, I said, "Top, what went wrong in Vietnam?" He said, "I'll tell you what went wrong. I ran out of ammo. That's what went wrong." Just had an answer for everything. But he is the most memorable person from my entire Marine Corps experience. And he was a Marine's Marine. My God. Just crusty, 1,000 stories, and never got tired talking to him. You'd ask him something and you'd be there 2 hours. And just a good guy. I mean, at the end of the day, just a good guy.
Were you surprised by how quickly the conflict ended?
Yes.
Why?
Well, we were told it would be a bloodbath, and that it would probably be at least 6 months, if we're lucky, to a year. It was 100 hours. From the time we started to the time we stopped and they surrendered, it was 100 hours. We expected to be there 6 more months minimum. What was amazing is we went through, stopped 2 hours for sleep, got up, did it again for 24. And the interesting part is, we were trying to find a place to hide. And we found a garbage dump. So we were literally in the middle of garbage, in a garbage dump. And I can remember a buddy of mine, Lee from Tennessee, who liked to have gin in his canteen. And he's standing on top of the track. And he says, "Hey, wait a second." And I look up and I said, "What's up?" "War's over." "What do you mean it's over?" "They just surrendered." "Oh, that's cool." That was it. It really wasn't emotional for me. It was just a matter of business. And they surrendered, and that was it. So, to find out that the war's over in a garbage dump was kind of funny. But that was really it for me. And then I had a couple of drinks with Lee and just started singing Rocky Top. And that was it. And it was like, okay, how do we get out of this garbage dump? So now I will say this. Interestingly enough, we found that out, and the war's over, went to bed. We woke up and had heard rumors that we were going all the way to Baghdad. We were just going to end it forever. And I can remember Warrant Officer Barber saying to me, right to my face, "If we don't go to Baghdad, we'll be back. Mark my words." He was right. He was right. So, from there, it's over, great. We went home, life went on. But when it started over again, years later, I just thought of Barber, Chief Warrant Officer Barber, going, man, he was exactly right. We were that close to just ending it and never having to go back there. Now, today's political climate, who knows? You want to talk about North Korea crazy? Does Iran get nuclear warheads? No, I don't know. I think my heart tells me there'll be another major conflict in my lifetime. I just don't know where. If I knew that, I wouldn't, be here. But we'll see. Hopefully God's grace works and it all works out. But, it's a matter of politics. So whatever the orders are, I know people will have to show up to fight the fight, and we'll see.
All right. Thank you very much for your time
You're
and
welcome.
service. And thank you.
You're welcome.